Hey everyone, I made a TV stand and I decided to film everything and kind of make a video about how I made it. It's not a how-to video. I kind of find how-to videos boring. So this is more of a time lapse of all the different steps and procedures that I did to make this TV stand. And yeah, let's get to it. I did not want to put my TV on the wall. I wanted a more traditional setup, and mostly I wanted the speakers and sound system. The TVs nowadays, like, I can't stand the sound, so I really wanted a two by one setup, and this is kind of what I came up with. So I came up with these legs. I don't know, it might be kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's 3-inch flat bar, and they match these table legs that I made. The coffee table is live edge wood with the middle is concrete here. So the way, and I had a whole video on this, I lost the footage. Anyway, the trick that I did on this thing to make the concrete really stick to the wood was I put in 6-inch lag bolts. I think I got 4 on each side, but 6-inch lag bolts, and they stick out about 4 inches. So that's what holds the concrete to the wood. Other than that, table came out great. Back to the TV stand. Most of it is time lapse, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through it on how I did all the steps. Starting off here, got some 3/4 inch birch plywood. I don't have a table stall, so just clamped down some wood for a makeshift fence. Worked out pretty good, just takes a long time to do. Just cutting it with a circular saw. Got some edge banding that it's real wood. It's pretty neat stuff. First time I'm using it. There's glue on the backside, so just take a heat gun, heat up that glue and press it down, and it holds. There's some excess, so just take razor blade, cut it off, trim it off. Pretty simple. It's nice stuff. Just be careful of the glue seeping elsewhere on the plywood. Plywood's pretty finished and it's pretty smooth, but I just took palm sander with 300 grit to it. Just take off any hard edges. Staining. I used 2 different stains here, kind of mixed them together. Probably not the best thing to do, but whatever, it came out pretty good. I'm happy with the color. It's a nice golden medium brown. The grain pops pretty well on it. And best way to do stain is just take an old rag and just throw it on there and then wipe it off smooth. This is water-based poly. I like this product. It's pretty, as far as sealing it, it's pretty good. It's pretty forgiving. You do have to put 3 coats on for it to come out to a good finish. And then since the doors you see the most, I put on 3 coats of poly, block sanded with like 800 grit or something, and then put on a 4th coat for the doors since you see it the most, and it really came out great. And this is just the finish after poly and everything dried. It's got a nice sheen to it. I didn't want something glossy. I didn't really want matte either. I think this was a nice middle of the road. Assembling the base cabinet. You see I'm using some 90-degree angled clips or whatever you want to call them. Not the correct way to do this, to be honest, but it's how I did it, since these outside pieces aren't really load bearing or integral to the structure of the cabinet. I figured it was fine. I'm sure some people will sit there and go, hey man, you shouldn't have done that or whatever, but it works for me and it works for this project. did pre-build this cabinet, or at least did this section of it before staying in it. And if you do make cabinets like that, I recommend doing that before doing any sort of finish to the wood. It's just a nice way. That way you can match everything up and it's just assembly afterward. So these middle pieces are really what gives the whole base cabinet its structure and strength. Just measuring it all out now and lining everything up to the doors. Make sure everything's 90, and I'll put in some screws to hold it all together, and that's what will give it the strength. And I don't live next to a racetrack. You hear the cars driving by in the background. That's just, since the video is all sped up, it sounds like I live next to a racetrack, but nope, just a neighborhood with cars driving by. Sounds kind of cool though in the video. And really, I could have edited this whole cabinet building section a lot shorter, but I wanted to leave in pretty much all the little measurements and how much lining up I did, just so you can see just how much, you know, you do something over and over just to make it perfect or make sure it's correct. Because I think in a lot of videos people just edit a lot of this out. And really, this is like 20-30 hours of footage edited into 20 minutes. So I mean, projects like this definitely take a long time. Just drilling some pilot holes. I think I'm just going to use 1.25" deck screws to hold these in. Three on each side. Getting lots of measurement and making sure everything's square before putting in the screws. I'm just using that clamp there to help hold the divider from moving left to right. Basically a third hand. Pretty much have the same facial expression all the way through this video. And I guess that's just my face whenever I'm concentrating or working on stuff, but lots of squinty faces.
piece of plywood that's stained, birch plywood that's stained, to finish off that back. So this groove you won't see. I've never really routed before or used a router. That thing makes an absolute mess. Again, this is that 1/4 inch piece of plywood for the back. If you want to see the edge, I just freehand it, and I didn't show it, but just screwed in, and it's all good. And that also, I guess, gives the whole base cabinet a little strength and helps keep it square. Measured out little holes for the door hinges to fit in, and just using a router to make that hole. Obviously you don't go all the way through, but really the only way to do this is to drill or drill bit or anything, so router's the choice. Putting the rest of the door hardware or hinges on the cabinet side. Just lining everything up here. I think I do use the little paper template that comes with the hinges to really decide where to put those holes and hinges. These are pretty nice hinges. There's little adjustment screws, so when you put it in there, you can adjust the door to make it closer to the cabinet or change the angle of the door slightly. Just so when it's finished, you have that little bit of adjustment and it comes out looking great. And this is where I actually adjust it. Do the same for the other side. Make sure you make squinty faces all the way through anytime you're working on something. Definitely helps. Or at least it helps me. And with that, I believe the cabinet is done. So moving on to the top here, this is Western Red. I got some 12-inch long pieces, so chopped it in half to make 6-foot sections. These are 2x4, so the total, I guess, width of it is a little under 16 inches, maybe like 15 and a half or so. But plan is to, I guess, hold it all together with dowels. Glue some dowels in between each piece. I think I put in 4 on each side, and then just glue it together. And here I'm just drilling out all the holes. I have to be about a 1/2 inch deep. You do have to be pretty exact as far as where the hole is drilled. You don't want one piece. One plank in the middle there sticking up. It's okay if the length, like one piece is longer on each end or shorter or whatever, because you can just take a saw and make a straight cut once everything's glued together and kind of dried. Make a nice square, even finished cut anyway. Putting the dowels in, gluing everything together. Rough cut wood like that, I like to take a 60 grit belt sander to it, and then a 60 grit palm sander, then jump it up to like a 150 grit on the palm sander, and then finish it off with like a 300 or so, or 320 grit, and it comes out pretty smooth, or really smooth actually. Put some poly on it, and you can see that wood grain on this particular wood pop pretty good. It's got a nice reddish hue to it. I'm really happy with it. Again, 3 coats on the poly. And since this is a softer wood, it does soak in the first coat. So you probably won't notice it as much on that first coat. When that third coat really comes out. Moving on to the legs here. And like I said, 3-inch wide by 1/4 inch thick flat bar. You can cut off these and make almost cut. You can little sanding disc to pull the paint off to make a good weld. A lot of cleaning up, a lot of noise. I'm easily the loudest one on my block. Just getting ready here to line up this piece and make the weld. Pretty beginner welder or novice welder. I'm just using a stick welder. It's really my second project even trying welding, but some of the welds came out good, some were pretty ugly. You make an ugly weld, good part is you just take a grinder and grind off anything that looks terrible before you paint it. Lined it up, painting here. I think it's like a dark gunmetal color. It's like a hammered type finish. Pretty good spray paint. I like how it came out. Line everything up and screwed in. Obviously pre-drilled some holes, and then I used 1/4 inch lag bolts to hold the legs to the top, and then I believe I put some in the base cabinet into the top. And you see I put some, welded on some tabs to the legs on the underside of the base cabinet. Just to uphold that cabinet. Put in that finished metal or middle shelf, and that should finish off the cabinet. Really happy with how it came out, to be honest. Happy the stain came out well. Happy the top came out well. I like the legs. No complaints. Again, just showing off the wood grain on the top. Probably use this wood for some other projects. Pretty happy with the look of it. But there you have it. That's it. It is deep enough to put some sort of like receiver or stereo receiver in the middle, and that was kind of the goal. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's my pup.